it's a lot of women that deal with the same things that I've dealt with,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know how to walk away. They don't have the strength to say, I'm done with this. They don't have the strength to, or they don't have the courage to set boundaries,
Right.
you
Right.
know? So this book is really to help somebody else to, and I'm not saying walk away if you're being disrespected, set boundaries,
Right.
set boundaries even with your children.
Right.
Um, Not having boundaries set, it opened doors to be disrespected on a higher level.
Hey everyone, welcome to Unapologetically 50 Plus. My name is Angela. So today I have Roanae. She is going to be with me, and we are going to talk about her book, Grace and Grit. So Roanae is the visionary curator behind Her Grace and Grit, a woman's shared stories of strength, healing, and fortitude. A passionate advocate for women's voices, Roanae creates space for truth telling, resilience, and radical healing through storytelling. She empowers women, especially those in midlife, to own their journeys and remind the world that grace and grit can beautifully coexist. But before we get started, I have one huge favor to ask. If you find any value or enjoy the content, please remember to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. I truly appreciate your support. All right, let's bring her on and we're going to get this conversation started. Hey, Roanae, how you doing, love?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, thank you so much for
That's good.
coming on. When we met,
You're
we were at
welcome.
a show that my husband was playing at, and we
Yeah.
started talking, and you talked about your book, and I was like, okay, well, I need to have her on. I know you said you haven't hit 50 quite yet, but I said, you know what? She's close enough. I need
No.
to bring her on. I need to bring her on so she can talk about your book and just how this all got started and what inspired you to do this book. Yeah. So before we get started, tell folks a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Roanae Kent. I'm 47 years old and I have two grown adult children. My oldest being 31 and my youngest is 28. Um, I grew up in San Francisco, born and raised in San Francisco. I raised my children outside of San Francisco. I believe when my oldest was like 5, I kind of moved out of San Francisco, you know. Um, I grew up in public housing, and with some of the conditions that, I was living in, I didn't want to raise my children in those conditions. I wanted, to try to provide a better life for them.
Yeah.
Um, so I did move out. I moved to San Mateo County, Daly City for some time. And I ended up moving to San Mateo, like borderline Foster City.
Mhm.
But I moved and I continued to work in the city. I worked in San Francisco, in the community where I actually grew up at.
Okay.
And I did that for about 15, 16 years. I was able to, you know, maintain a good life for me and my children. Um, I would say around 2006, maybe.
Mhm.
Um, I I pretty much got into a relationship that, I thought would last forever, Things happened and it didn't. However, I remained the person who I was in the relationship.
Mhm.
Um, I wouldn't say that there wasn't any blow ups or whatever, but I did not throw stones. I did not hit below the belt. I did not, um, you know, hurt in a way to where it would stick.
Okay.
And I felt like I gave grace. You know what I mean? I also had grace for myself at some point because um, I was able to then tell myself if that person knew better, they would have done better, And I tried not to be hard on myself. I tried to also learn more about myself. As time progressed, leaving the relationship, I noticed that I didn't know nothing but that relationship. You know what I mean? I didn't
Right.
know who I was internally because I was always attached to somebody else since I was 15. And I was attached to this one person. So I didn't know that by I didn't know first, I didn't know that it would hurt that bad walking away. Honestly, I probably would have stayed. If
Mm.
I would have known how much pain it was to walk away and deal with everything that you dealt with in that relationship, everything resurfaced, everything, things from my childhood that he had no parts in. It brought up things with my siblings, my mother, my father. It was so painful that I had to sit in it. I
Okay.
had to sit in it. I didn't try to run away from it. I didn't drink myself. I didn't use drugs. I sat in it. I went to therapy. I went to I dove deep into my Bible. I'm learning the Bible. I was not brought up in church, so this is new to me. I've always been, I would say I've always been a Christian woman, but I didn't know it on this level that I'm learning it now.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So, was that going through what you went through? Was that the spark that inspired you to create Her Grace and Grit?
Uh, yes, yes, it was. I've always wanted to write a book about like myself, my life. There's a lot of things that I haven't shared and I can't even share because I'm on my second book now.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank you. I don't want to share too much, but there's I've been through a lot in my life, and I feel like I turned out pretty good, being that who people expected me to be then, that's not who I am today. A
Okay.
lot of people can't accept who I am today, so they still look at me in the lens of who I used to be.
Mm.
And so, it's I have stories, I had I would say I had a rough life, but I also had a partially good life too.
Okay.
Everything wasn't all bad growing up. Everything wasn't all bad in my relationship. Everything wasn't all bad raising my children, but it's some good and it's some bad to it. And I don't think that a lot of people realize, sit and just kind of realize like the things that they have been through and kind of evaluate where they're at today and, give themselves grace for, carrying on. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes we overlook how far we've come.
So, how did your life shift once you committed to bringing this project to life?
My life shifted because, again, I would say diving deep into within,
Okay.
diving deep, like really feeling every emotion. No matter where I was at, I was feeling the emotion of whatever I was feeling,
Okay.
whether it was something from my past childhood or something from my past relationship. I felt it. I felt emotion. I didn't hold it in. If I'm actually I was a bus driver then, but I drive trains now. However, if I was driving that bus and I felt like crying, I was crying.
Okay.
I didn't hold it in because I felt like I had held it in for so long. I needed it to get out. It built up so much rage within me, and I can say, like, in my past life, when I had that much rage in me, I would go, fight or, like
Yeah.
I would not just deal with it and keep it pushing. I feel like I've grown in so many different areas from like just being that violent person towards someone if I felt like my feelings was hurt or something like that, until or feeling disrespected.
Right.
um I feel like I am a different woman who I am today. I know how to handle my emotions
Right.
and pray about it and walk away.
So it sounds like, when I hear folks talk about doing shadow work, sitting with
Hmm.
that pain, sitting with
Definitely.
that
Hmm.
those emotions, instead of just pushing them down or acting like they don't exist. You decided to say,
Yes.
hey, if I need to have a good cry, I'm going to do that. If I need to, scream at the sky, then I'm going to do it. But you decided to let that go in order to help you become the better person and grow, because that shadow work
Yes.
and that letting go of the emotions instead of compartmentalizing them, letting go of those emotions have helped you grow, I'm assuming.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, okay. Now, remember, you were saying also that this book wasn't, is it a collaboration with you and other women, or is this yours?
Yes. So it's a collaboration. It's an anthology book, and right now we have 12 women, and me included,
Mm-hmm.
um, from different states. Uh, I believe it's only like one other woman from California, San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it's only one.
Oh,
So
okay.
I do have a publicist, so she's really handling everything. So I know like it's only a minimum amount of information that I do know,
Oh,
um,
okay.
on the other participants.
Oh,
So
okay.
yes.
Okay. Okay. And what inspired you to do this with other women?
I wanted to do this because, people would look at me or look at my social media and be like, "Oh, she helped change somebody, this guy, because whoever know him know he was a lover boy to everybody." And he really, I can say like he changed his life. Um, you know, he changed his life and became a better person when he seen, I would say, structure and
Okay.
stability within a woman, and somebody who, he didn't have to worry about,
Mm-hmm.
nothing with.
Okay.
So, even though he resorted back, but I feel like, it's a lot of women that deal with the same things that I've dealt with,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know how to walk away. They don't have the strength to say, I'm done with this. They don't have the strength to, or they don't have the courage to set boundaries,
Right. Right.
So this book is really to help somebody else to, and I'm not saying walk away if you're being disrespected, set boundaries,
Right.
set boundaries even with your children.
Right.
Um, Not having boundaries set, it opened doors to be disrespected on a higher level.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
So the title alone, Grace and Grit, it's such a contrasting yet complementary idea. How do those words show up in your own life?
Grace and grit showed up in my own life because, like I said, I had grace for him. I
Mm-hmm.
had grace for, um, other people who was involved.
Okay.
Um, I had grace for myself. And grit is, I feel like I've elevated since walking away from the relationship mentally.
Okay.
Um, I was able to progress in my place of employment. Things just started being good to me. God started being good to me
Okay.
because I just, I don't know what it was. You know what I mean? But, um, everything just started looking a little bit better for me when I started choosing me.
That's what I was going to say. It sounded like once you started saying, okay, I need to value myself. I need to value who I am as a woman. That doors, whether, because not whether you believe in God, Allah, whatever, whoever your higher source is, it sounds like
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying is once we as women give that grace and that love to ourselves and respect for ourselves, then there's more of that a spiritual awakening. At least that's what I'm finding out for myself. There's more of
Yes.
a spiritual awakening once I have decided to choose myself. Not to say that I'm, you know, dismissing everybody else, but I'm deciding to put myself first. And that's what it sounds like you're saying, even
Yes.
with yourself, that you chose yourself and said, hey, you know what? I need to give myself, like you said, that grace and love myself first.
Right.
And then those doors started to open for you.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
And I do think that in that it wasn't just, with um that other person. I think it was with everybody,
Okay.
everybody surrounding me.
Okay.
So
Okay. Now, do you think Black women are often forced to embody both grace and grit and sometimes at the same time?
I would uh I would say that some women are
Okay.
and some are not. Some don't have the tools. Some um don't want to learn,
Mm-hmm.
how to keep going some after adversity,
Okay.
so
Yeah. Okay. Now, like you were saying, this was a book with you and I think you said 12 other women. So were you the one that
mhm.
selected the other women, or was it just, brought together by your publicist? How was that?
So what I would do is I would post it, she would post it, and we just constantly kept posting it. People was reaching out. There was a lot of people who reached out who um, did not join us.
Okay.
So I would say like they just came from sharing on social media, word of
Okay.
mouth.
Okay. So you are basic, but you are the what's the word I'm looking for? The person who basically brought this all together. It was your brainchild, basically. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. So what qualities or themes stood out most as you read, or have you read? I'm sure you have. You've
I
read the
read
other
some
stories.
chapters.
Okay. And how
I
did
read
the?
like four other chapters.
Okay. And what stood out most to you?
Um, I would say one stood out with a lady who has she's a mother.
Mm-hmm.
She's married now. She had a struggle in her life, and she ended up being well after. She came up out of it, and she's striving for the best.
Okay.
She's a community activist. She do a lot of community work. She worked
Okay.
for a great company, and she put her children and herself first. So she
Was
didn't let, because of something that she went through, hold her back from being great.
amazing. Was it ever difficult to ask someone to go deeper or become more vulnerable in their writing? Did you even have to do that?
I didn't. I did
Okay.
not have to ask anyone.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like they really poured, they were not afraid to pour themselves into this project.
No, not at all.
Okay. Okay.
Not
Were
at
there
all.
were there any stories that shook you or reminded you of your own healing journey?
Um, mm, uh, not really.
Okay.
Not really. I do think that everybody's actually, yes. A few of the ladies said um about them, about their childhood. It kind of brought up, things that went on in their childhood, and it played out in their relationship.
Oh,
So,
okay. Okay. And I think for a lot
yes.
of us, especially Black women, because we do, even if we have a great childhood or what we look back and say, oh, it wasn't too bad, there's still some things that, when you start peeling back the layers, you're like, oh, that's why I
Definitely.
do this, or that's why I feel this
Yeah,
way. For me, and my husband keeps saying, you need to write a book. I was adopted,
you
and
should.
I was adopted, and I was, uh, you know, adopted at 3, so I was in foster care for, up until basically till I was out of the hospital until 3 years old. I was in foster care,
Hmm.
and you don't realize how much you do remember, even though you don't subconsciously, how much you remember in those earlier years. And there were so many things that I kept
Hmm.
thinking, was this a dream or did this really happen?
Yeah.
And those things have carried over into my life and how they've impacted even my relationship with my husband. So,
Right.
and I'm always an advocate. Hey, if you have to go do therapy, then do therapy. There's nothing wrong with it. So I'm a huge
Definitely.
advocate for going through
Me
therapy.
too.
So yeah, it's interesting how as Black women, we don't really dig we don't dig deep enough in our childhood
Hmm.
because we don't want, I think we're afraid to open up those wounds, or even look back and say, my childhood, while I thought it was great, maybe it wasn't as great as, as I
Hmm.
perceived it to be, because you just don't want to open that up and,
Right.
have that emotional, you know, just get really emotional about it. So that's why I think
Hmm.
your book can really help a lot of women realize that, hey, it's okay. You need to peel
Yes,
back those
definitely.
layers. So
It
as
helped me so much.
it did, no, good. Yeah.
Yes.
I always say writing is, whether it's journaling or writing a book, it's so therapeutic. Putting that pen to paper
Right.
and just letting it pour out, even if no one else ever reads it. It's so therapeutic. So
Hmm.
I just had a lady on
Yes.
Friday who does journaling, and she helps, Black women, especially older Black women, just to put pen to paper and just write and,
Hmm.
let that,
Mm.
all that emotion come out.
Right.
So, as a Black woman, how important was it for you to center culturally rooted resilience in this collection? So, were there any cultural truths or unspoken stories you felt had to be said out loud in your book?
Yes. Well, I didn't say it in the book, but I do believe that, I know in my household when I was younger, it was whatever goes on in this house, it stays in this house.
Yes.
And so I actually, like I was one that when my kids, you don't go and tell what goes on in my house.
Right.
And so I don't feel like I wouldn't say like go share your business, because a lot of people just want to hear it just to talk about it.
Right.
However, in certain situations, I believe that having that cultural don't say what's going on, it stops a lot of people from sharing what's really going on inside that home, another home,
Right.
inside their home, excuse me. And that's just how I was raised, you know what I mean? So
Right.
a lot of things, and I wouldn't say that my whole relationship was bad. I had some great times, you know what I mean? And
Right.
I can still say to this day, like, he was a wonderful man. It's just some things I wasn't aligning with me that I just couldn't take anymore. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I can never take that away, but the things that I didn't share
Mm-hmm.
were the things that was killing me inside.
Okay.
So
And
I would, I
yeah.
talk to somebody, get a counselor, get a therapist,
Right. Right.
um, you know, And it had gotten so bad, like even with my best friend, it was so much she didn't know that went on. You know what I mean? Like so much she didn't know.
And I think we're afraid to share,
So
one, because we don't want to be judged. You
that
don't want
part,
that
yeah.
judgment of, well, why don't you just leave? Or why, or maybe
Hmm.
it could be
Yeah.
that I told you so. And you don't want to hear that, especially if you're going through
Right.
stuff.
I
You don't want to
didn't.
hear that. You want to just, you
Mm.
know, and that's why, even with myself and, my own collective of women, I try not to be the one to say I told you so, because I know I would not want to be on the receiving end of that. So I do try really
Right.
hard to just listen and not so much, give my advice or give my own opinion, unless
Hmm.
asked for. Because I will say, do you want to hear
Right.
my
Right.
opinion?
Right.
But you're very much correct that, we've been told, don't say what's going on in my house, or don't talk about what goes
Hmm.
on in this house. And so much is, especially if it's something that needs to be said for a child's
Hmm.
safety, or for, another
Right.
person's
Right.
safety. But we
Hmm.
weren't taught that. We were taught to keep it quiet. So
Right.
I don't want everybody up in my business, so
Right.
so let's talk
That
about
was definitely me.
yeah. Let's talk about forgiveness. What role does it play in healing, and what did you learn about it from the women in this book?
I
Or
learned
even from
that
yourself, even
you
from
have to,
yourself.
from myself, I've learned that you have to forgive to be forgiven. You
Okay.
know, nobody's perfect. And even though at times I still feel an urge to get upset when I remember what, we built, and then just to know that it's not what I wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, however, I do believe that if you don't forgive, you won't be forgiven for your sins.
Yeah.
Um, it's you will never forget it, but you can heal from it.
Right.
And I'm learning that every day. Every day, I'm learning to forgive anybody, my mother, my father,
Hmm.
anybody who've ever hurt me.
Yeah.
Um, because I feel like, how can I hold it against them when there's things that I've done that I need people to forgive me for? You know, I need people to have a little grace with me.
Yeah.
So, you have to, it's a give and take thing.
Are there any techniques that you do to help you forgive others, or forgive yourself? Are there any
Every day.
techniques?
I'm in my Bible every single day. There's not
Okay.
a day go by that
Okay.
I just have to,
Okay.
because if I don't, I don't, my mind, your mind shift on a daily, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
one day you can feel good, the next day you can feel bad,
Right.
you know? So yeah, I just
Okay.
try to stay in my Bible, make sure I'm going to counseling every day, every once a week. And
Okay.
um, I just forgive myself for the things that I allowed. I forgive myself for, just putting up with so much,
Right.
because you have to forgive yourself for
Right.
the things that, you've done, and for the things that you accepted. Because if you don't, you'll still have some type of ill feelings about something. You'll be angry at yourself for, you know, just why did I take so much? Because that plays in your head a whole lot when you're dealing with situations with friends, with family, with relationships, with
Right.
even your children.
Right.
If you
Right.
don't set them boundaries, and you will keep going through it. So setting
Right.
boundaries and just forgiving, being real forgiving.
Okay.
Don't be so forgiving though that you you looking crazy, you know. So, you just have to set boundaries really.
Yeah, exactly. What did you learn about yourself in the process of curating this anthology?
Whew, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I am genuinely a great person to whoever comes in my life. I and I didn't know that about myself.
Mm.
Um,
You didn't know
hold
you
on.
were a great person?
I mean, I always knew I was a good person because I've always tried to be a good person. However,
Uh-huh.
when you have somebody throwing in your face or some people putting in your face so much negativity about who you are as a person, you start to believe it.
Right. Right.
And so at some point, I thought I was ugly. At some point, I thought I'm sorry. Like it was a lot that I sat and it sunk into me of the perception of who I was from other people,
Mm-hmm.
including my mother. Um, so hold on.
That's okay.
um, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I am a child of God. I know that God got me. Um, and I know that I am beautiful, and I've learned to love myself fully, and I'm always going to be authentically myself. Like I'm not trying to be nobody else. I don't want to be anybody else.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
So, did this process reveal any parts of yourself you hadn't fully acknowledged before?
yes. Um, I I didn't acknowledge my strength. I never acknowledged my strength. Um, I know my strength now. I didn't acknowledge that. Um, I would say I didn't acknowledge not only strength but the amount of love and support I poured into everybody else and
Mm,
wasn't pouring that same amount into myself.
mm,
So it kind of opened my eyes to so much, and I can say that I had isolated for so long. I isolated for a long time because, um it was a lot I was dealing with.
right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Now, when you say strength, I know on a number of my past episodes, I do talk about that the black woman being a strong black woman. When you're talking about the strength, you're not talking about that strong black woman, are you? Are you talking about the strength to set your boundaries, to realize how great you are? Because to me, there's such a difference when we talk about the strong black woman. It's not always strength, it's out of necessity. It's out of you have to carry this
Right.
load and it's wearing you down.
Right.
Whereas it sounds like you're talking about me loving myself first and realizing how amazing how amazing you are.
Mhm.
Is that what you're saying when you
Yes.
talk about acknowledging your strength?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And what did this project teach you about your own voice as a woman and a creator?
It taught me that I should speak. I can speak.
Hmm.
And it's nothing wrong with sharing your story.
Okay.
Because it's my story, it's my testimony. And it also taught me that um it taught me a lot about I'm trying to see how to say this. It taught me a lot how to listen to my own voice and
Okay.
take my own advice. And even, people give you good advice. I have people that give me good advice all the time. A lot of times I would take it, and sometimes I wouldn't. I still would do other things, you know. However, um, it's not always wrong to take advice, but sometimes you have to do what's right for you, not for what somebody else think is right for you.
I call that for me, it's intuition. Listening to my
Mm,
intuition, listening to my
yeah,
what my soul is telling me. And while you're right,
right,
there's nothing wrong with listening to other people's advice, but ultimately the decision needs to lie within yourself and what makes you
right,
feel that this is the right decision for you. So yes,
right.
I totally agree with that. Do you see her grace and grit? Well, you've already said this. You're already working on a second book, but do you think this is a beginning of a larger movement than what you probably have
I do.
anticipated? Okay.
I do. I do. Um, I believe that this is going to help a lot of women to overcome their fears.
Okay.
Um, it's going to help a lot of women to set boundaries,
Okay.
to just believe in themselves and um, believe that they can achieve more.
Okay.
So I do.
Okay. Okay. What would the next evolution of this project look like in your dream world?
Oh, me traveling on tour,
Okay.
getting better at my interviews because I'm super shy. So
Uh-huh.
I don't even would think I was shy. I'm just not confident enough. You know, I'm confident in what I'm saying. So that's why I'm able to get up here and say it. However, I'm still working through the kinks of just embracing who I am.
I totally understand, believe me. I understand because a couple of years ago, you would have never seen me in front of a camera. I've always been very much an introvert, very much an introvert. But
Right,
I see a bigger movement as I'm asking you with what I'm
right,
doing.
yeah,
So, and I love talking to, women who are doing things and who just have the knowledge and the life experiences to come on and, help me learn because I learn from each one of you. Whenever someone comes
right,
on here, I'm learning something new and realizing how many amazing Black women. I'll say 45 and older. I'll give you youngins
right.
45 and older. I'm seeing how much wisdom and just the beauty and all the ladies that I've had on, the spiritual beauty in each
Mhm,
one of you. So I appreciate you guys coming on here
right.
and teaching me.
Thank you.
So many women, I'm going to say over 45, are rewriting their stories. What message would you share with them about the power
Yes.
of sharing their stories, even the messy parts?
Just be authentically you. Don't try to um, butter it up with um, what's not real. I
Okay.
would say just be authentically you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And heal, like get healing for yourself. I
Okay.
would strongly encourage therapy
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. What would
because
you
it's
say?
not easy.
It's not. What would you say to the woman who still feels her story isn't enough to be shared?
Give it a try. Step out on faith. Give it a
Mm,
try,
yeah.
and you'll be surprised with what you come up with.
Yeah. Yeah. So very true. I wrote,
How much pain that you will be erasing from the inside of you.
mm, yeah. And sometimes that we don't realize, again, it goes back to we kind of brush it aside or put it in the back of our mind
Hmm.
about how much we've actually been through. It's like writing a resume.
Right. Hmm.
You don't realize how much you've
Yeah.
really done in this particular job until you start listing all the things and you're like, I didn't realize I was doing all that, I'm pretty doggone amazing. You don't
Right.
really, because you just do it. It's just automatic. You just do it.
Right,
And
right.
we don't realize the amount of knowledge and can't think of the word right now, but how much we have to offer to the world
Right.
because we just think, oh, we're just doing what we do every day, but what we do every day is impacting so many people. And even though they might not say
Yes,
it, they might
definitely.
not give you the pat on the back. You
Hmm.
got to give yourself the pat on the back and say,
Right.
look at all that I'm doing. And that's why I encourage,
Hmm.
I think journaling or, like you said, writing, because
Right.
start really digging deep and saying, wow, okay, I didn't realize, or I forgot I did, or I forgot I helped this person. We just don't give ourselves enough credit. And then I think when we don't give
Right.
ourselves enough credit, we forget how amazing we truly are. So
Yes.
kudos to you for writing, this amazing book. How
Yeah,
has storytelling? I'm sorry.
thank you.
Go ahead. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I said thank you.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
How has storytelling, in your view, become a form of healing?
I'm able to just breathe now. You know what I mean? I don't walk around on edge because I got so much bottled up.
Okay.
Um, it has helped me just release so much.
Have your children read your book?
No, nobody read it,
Your family?
but the publicist. Mm-mm.
Okay. It is out though, right? I mean, you
Because I don't want, so I have a reason for that. I
okay.
have a reason for that because I don't want nobody to alter what I'm writing. I don't want nobody to try to convince me, oh, don't put that in there because how somebody else will feel. I want this to be my story. This is my story. This is what I want to share.
Okay, because I
So,
definitely want to make
yes.
sure that we have your information so people can get the book. I definitely want to get the book. I mean, I really want to
Yes.
read it. So, yeah, I will
Yes.
make sure I get
So,
that
it's
information from you, and I'll put it in the
okay, let me
description.
pull it up. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, definitely. Um, if readers take away just one thing from this book, what do you hope it is, and why does it matter right now?
I hope that they would take away um the experience. I want them to take away is it's okay to speak. It's okay to speak when something is not right. It's okay to speak when something is um if you feel uncomfortable about something, it's okay to share. I don't like that. You know what I mean? A lot of people sit back and allow so much to happen to them. I was one of them. You know, I would let people do anything and I would sit back and cry. Not because I was a simp or something like that. However, it was because, um, in my past life, I would pop off, so I was trying to work on that. And so it allowed me to accept so much um, from other people. So I would want them to take away just being open to just simply say, don't do that, or I'm not comfortable with you doing that, you
Oh,
know, um, or don't talk to me like that. It's okay to say you don't want somebody to talk to you a certain way.
right.
And I would want them to take away just being themselves, like be yourself. A lot of people get on these social medias and they start mimicking how other people are on
Right.
social media.
Right.
They coming out with all this AI stuff, and it's just it's changing who we are
Right.
as a person, you know what I mean? Like, because it's like you start to look a certain way on there. So you feeling like, because I'm putting on an AI mask, I have to start acting like this.
Right.
And just be your authentic self always. People going to gravitate to you or they're not, but
Right.
it's okay. You know what I
You'll,
mean?
you'll find your
So,
tribe.
yeah.
So, what does it mean to you to leave a legacy rooted in truth and testimony?
I would like to I would like to leave a legacy of truth and testimony because um you know, like I said, my childhood, I don't talk what goes on in my house, don't share nothing. So it was like I embedded that in my children.
Mm,
And then, so it's like, I'm not saying go out and tell your story, but tell everything goes on in your house. However,
right.
you know, it's
Yeah,
okay to talk
it's okay.
and,
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Okay. I have one last question for you. I know you're not 50 yet, but this you can still answer this one. What does it mean to be unapologetically, I'll say 45 plus, since you're 47? What does it mean to be authentically 45 plus?
To me, it means being bold, being great, just being me.
Okay. Okay.
My life really changed when I turned 40. Actually, I would say 43. My life changed.
Okay. And believe me, it'll get better once you hit 50, lady. It's going to get even better.
Hmm.
You think you're bold and grace and grit now? You're going to take the world by storm with your books. I'm sure you are going to impact so many women. And especially hopefully younger women, so they don't wait until they're
Yes.
45, 50 to feel
Right.
emboldened to
Hmm.
be authentically them. So
Right.
yeah, this is amazing. I'm really happy for you. I can't wait to read the book. So, and look forward
Thank you.
to having you back on for your second book when you start really,
All right.
when
Thank
you're
you.
ready to talk about your second book a little bit. So thank you again so much for coming on. I will make sure that whatever social media, however people can keep in contact with you, can follow you. I will make sure that
Okay.
information's in the description below. Thank you guys again for joining. Please remember to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell. And I hope you really enjoyed this conversation. I know I did. And I will see you guys again next week. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.